It isn't every day that Patek Philippe introduces an entirely new collection, especially a new range of elegant sports watches. But here it is, and it is called the Patek Philippe Cubitus. 3 years after discontinuing the celebrated stainless steel blue Nautilus 5711, or 2 years, if we include the farewell olive green and Tiffany editions, some collectors around the globe eagerly awaited a replacement for the steel 5711. What they probably didn't expect was that the Genevan family-owned brand would introduce an entire collection. The Cubitus range, comprising the steel 5821A, the steel and gold 5821AR, and the more complex Instantaneous Grand Date Platinum 5822P. We felt it's best to go hands-on with the much-anticipated Patek Philippe Cubitus collection. Having said that, you can feel the importance of today's launch of a new collection by Patek Philippe, specifically an elegant sports watch with an integrated bracelet. Knowing the immense aura and recognition of the steel Nautilus and the eagerness of collectors to see a replacement in stainless steel since its discontinuation in 2022, the launch of the Patek Philippe Cubitus was much anticipated. And here it is in the metal in 3 variations, including a full steel time and date model, the Cubitus 5821A. Cubitus, the square evolution of the Nautilus. The Patek Philippe Cubitus is a new interpretation of a very well-known concept of the brand, the sporty chic watch or integrated luxury sports watch, a category that the brand mastered with the creation of the Nautilus in 1976 with the reference 3700. Its modern evolution, the steel 5711, is quite possibly the most revered watch in this segment, and as such, has created a solid background for the brand in this field, which comes with a few collaterals, such as an untouchable icon status. With Cubitus, Patek Philippe returns to the same segment as the Nautilus, yet with a new, more angular, sharper interpretation. There's certainly far more geometry in Cubitus than in Nautilus, a watch that is known as fairly subtle in the luxury sports category, something that's always been its main point of differentiation with the very angular Royal Oak, its longtime rival. With the Cubitus, Patek brings what it calls a quadrangular-shaped case, where the square bezel, yes, Cubitus is first and foremost a square watch, adopts rounded corners, somehow blending the square and the octagon. But having said that, there is an undeniable connection between Cubitus and Nautilus. Putting both watches side by side would reveal obvious similarities and familiar traits, such as the 2 attachments, one on either side of the case, the famous hinges of the Nautilus, the 2-part construction that was first seen in 1976 with the 3700, the overall shape of the lugs at 12 and 6 o'clock, the profile, the embossed dial pattern, and even the bracelet. In fact, the Patek Philippe Cubitus feels like a Nautilus where all curves have been replaced by straight lines. It's undoubtedly more striking and more dynamic, but it's undeniably recognizable too. And it is, as we could attest when seeing the watches in the metal, much better in real life than what some might have said on social media. Proportions and case design. As said, the Cubitus collection is presented with 3 variants: 2 time and date models on integrated metal bracelets, and a higher-end, more complex version in platinum with a strap. Now that we have talked about that, all 3 models share the same overall design and proportions, except the thickness of the 5822P. As most of you know, square watches tend to wear larger than their dimensions suggest. It's all about the area covered by the watch. So what about Cubitus? Well, yes, it wears larger than a Nautilus and has more wrist presence. No debate. The square case covers more surface area on the wrist than the more rounded case of a Nautilus or an Aquanaut of equivalent diameter. But it's far from negative, and the Patek Cubitus is not an oversized watch. Not at all. Despite the given dimensions, the 10 to 4 o'clock measurement advertised by Patek is 45 millimeters. It actually wears much smaller than you'd expect. It's pleasantly balanced and has great wrist presence. This is also due to its rather pleasant thinness. The watch has a 44.5 millimeters width, 3 to 9 o'clock, including the crown and a very short 44.9 millimeter lug-to-lug without the first link of the bracelet. The thickness of the case is 8.3 millimeters for the time and date model, and the complicated 5822P measures 9.6 millimeters. The case, whether in steel, in a combination of steel and rose gold, or in 950 platinum, retains classic Patek finishes with vertical satin finished surfaces combined with polished bevels on the sides of the bezel and the central case. The two-part case of the Patek Cubitus is otherwise familiar, and it includes a screw-down crown as well as sapphire crystals on both sides. Despite this construction and these features, it is like all Patek watches advertised as water-resistant to 30 meters, which has been a point of debate amongst the watch collecting community since early 2024. In all fairness, it is certainly capable of more than that. The time and date, Cubitus, 582-1A and 582-1AR, probably the most important of all three models. The Cubitus 5821A is a classic steel version worn on a steel bracelet with a time and date display and a dark dial, the essence of an elegant sports watch. This simpler dial and display also allow for the case, in its original, rather cubic shape, to express itself even more. The same watch is also available in a two-tone steel and gold edition, also equipped with an integrated metal bracelet, the Cubitus 5821AR. So here we have two classics of the genre, with a slim profile of 8.3 millimeter and an uncluttered dial. For both, the central case is made of steel, with the 5821AR adding 18K rose gold on multiple elements. The bezel and lateral module, a monoblock construction, the crown and the central polished links of the bracelet. This addition also adds gold touches to its blue dial, with the markers, date frame, and hands made of solid 18-karat rose gold. The full steel Cubitus 5821A is more classic, with its olive green dial, which inevitably evokes the farewell edition of the steel Nautilus, the reference 5711/1A-014. It is here paired with white gold hands and markers. On this topic, just like for the case, the connection between the Cubitus and the Nautilus is undeniable, as both share the same horizontal relief embossing on the dial, adorned with a sunburst finish. The hands of the Patek Cubitus are also identical in shape to the Nautilus, and the applied markers, while cut in position differently due to the shape of the case, which is replicated on the dial, are also done in the same vein as a Nautilus. Luminescent coating is found on all elements, and the date disc is white, whatever the color of the dial, something that has never been an issue with the 5711, and is still not for the Cubitus 5821A. Let's talk about the bracelet, as it plays an important role in the design of such a watch, but also in its comfort. Here again, the integrated bracelet shares familiar traits and is soft, flexible, and nicely finished. Vertical satin brushed on the main links and polished on the central links, with a polished bevel on the sides. But importantly, the metal bracelet of the Patek Philippe Cubitus comes with a comfort extension that Patek describes as a lockable size adjustment system and a patented Patek Philippe fold-over clasp with 4 independent catches ensuring both comfort and security. This means the bracelet can be slightly enlarged in warmer weather. However, there is no quick change system to switch to a strap. Both time and date Cubitus 5821 references are powered by the in-house caliber 26-330SC. SC stands for second central. This automatic movement with a central rotor is widely used by Patek. It's found, for instance, in the 5811G in the Aquanaut and serves as a base for complication watches. Launched in 2019 as a replacement for the caliber 324, it is a fine, technically classic movement with stop seconds, Gyromax balance, Spiromax hairspring, and a 4 Hz frequency. The power reserve, with a maximum of 45 hours, is still on the short side. It is nicely finished and comes with a Cubitus exclusive rotor decoration with the same horizontal motif as the dial. The steel Patek Philippe Cubitus 5821/1A will be priced at 35,000 Swiss francs or 40,575 euros, and the steel and gold Cubitus 5821/1 at 52,000 Swiss francs or 60,257 euros, 257. The Cubitus Instantaneous Grand Date 5822P. Besides the two classic time and date models, Patek Philippe also introduces a more complex, more luxurious platinum edition of the Cubitus, the Instantaneous Grand Date, Day and Moon Phases reference 5822P, worn on a strap. And while it somehow feels reminiscent of the Nautilus 5712, with its off-center display, it features a new set of complications, including a big date at 12 o'clock. Besides being made of 950 platinum, with the obligatory diamond at 6 o'clock, but this time a baguette-shaped one inserted in the bezel, a first for Patek. The Cubitus 5822P has a slightly different case from the rest of the collection. If the design and overall proportions are identical to the 5821A, this Instantaneous Grand Date is slightly thicker at 9.6 millimeter in height due to the more complex movement. It's also the only model from the collection not to come on a metallic bracelet, but instead, it is worn on a modern and casual navy blue strap with cream contrasting stitching made from composite material embossed with a fabric motif. It is secured by a Cubitus sign fold-over clasp. The dial of the 5822P bears the familiar horizontal embossed pattern, this time in a deep navy blue tone, reminiscent of the 5811G, and, as said, a layout that's close to that of the 5712, with the same position for the small seconds and the moon phase, same pointage as the caliber 240 found in this version of the Nautilus. There are, however, multiple differences with the 5712, as the power reserve indicator has been removed, the date surrounding the moon has been replaced by a weekday indication, and mostly, there's now a 2-disc big date at 12 o'clock. Patek has developed a new version of the emblematic micro-rotor caliber 240, a movement that can trace its origins back to 1977. While the base movement is well known, the dial side of this new caliber is new, and it comprises 353 parts in total, 104 more parts than the movement of the 5712, yet only measures 0.77 millimeters more in thickness. Patek has filed 6 patent applications for this specific caliber. So what is it all about? Well, the obvious novelty is the Grand Date, as the brand calls it, a big date display with 2 coplanar discs to avoid superposition. This system is taken from the inline perpetual calendar, reference 5236. Patek has also developed an instantaneous jump mechanism, not only for the Grand Date, but for the day and moon phase indications, with all of them jumping instantaneously and simultaneously in 18 milliseconds at midnight, using the energy accumulated throughout the day. Despite these additional and energy-consuming complications, the caliber 240P SC-CIJLU retains the same 38 to 48-hour power reserve rating as all 240 movements. Indications can be adjusted by using correctors set into the flanks of the case, even though it would be better if done by the crown. However, the Cubitus 5822P has the possibility of correcting all the indications, including the time in the day, at any hour of the day without the risk of damaging the movement. Flipping the watch reveals the classic look of the 240 base caliber, with its refined finishes and a micro-rotor in solid gold, with the same horizontal decoration as the dial. The movement is regulated within a range of -1 to +2 seconds per day, according to the new criteria of the manufacturer from spring 2024. The Patek Phillipe Cubitus Instantaneous Grand Date 5822P will be priced at 75,000 Swiss francs or 86,908 euros. If you found this video informative, educative, and entertaining, kindly hit the subscribe button and don't forget to like, comment, share, and turn on the notification bell to stay tuned to our channel for more exciting and informative